Welcome to another episode of BW People HR Voices, where we decode the conversations shaping the future of work. As organizations enter the second half of the year, HR teams are once again reviewing goals, performance engagement, and productivity. But here is the bigger question. Are today's performance management systems actually helping employees grow, or are they simply measuring outcome after it's too late? So, what should performance management systems actually look like in the second half of 2026? To discuss this, we are joined by Ms. Pooja B. Luthra, the Group CHRO at Trident Group India and founder and CEO of Humane Insights. Thank you, Ms. Pooja, for joining us today.
Hi, Savi. Thank you so much for having me.
Before we get into the more serious conversations, I would like to start on a lighter note. If you had to eliminate just one thing from today's performance management systems, what would it be and why?
Annual reviews. I think that's probably the first one to go out of the window. Only because we are such a here and now culture. Irrespective of whether you're at work, it's the blink it economy. Everything is within 5 minutes, within 8 minutes. So why should performance be any different, right? So I think the entire notion of annually when we review things, that's sort of, in my opinion, becoming redundant.
All right. Well, you've been in the industry for a very long time now. Can you let us know, what kind of evolution have you seen in terms of performance management systems now that AI has come into play for the last decade? Earlier, it was only based on paper and, everything like that. Could you compare it for us and let us know how it has evolved over time?
See, I think evolution has constantly happened where performance management was concerned, and that's also because when you look at people, it's about relegating them to a rating. It's about relegating them. It's about review. It's about judgment in one way. So it has been one of those topics in HR that I think more than anything else. So you've got all sorts of things, including KRAs and KPIs and balance scorecard and OKRs and continuous performance enablement. From performance review, it went on to performance management, then came on to performance enablement. I think the research on this has been endless, and I think rightly so. It's only because you do want the performance management system. And it'll surprise you for the word I always use is you need it to be inspirational. You don't need it to be something that looks back and gives a verdict. You need it to be forward looking. You need it to drive performance at the end of the day, right? So from that standpoint, I think a lot of research has happened, a lot of practices have happened, and things have sort of moved on, gradually. Uh,
Mhm.
AI has come very late in the picture. So, to say that whether things are going to become better or not with AI remains to be seen. Oh, yes,
Mhm.
where data is concerned, probably I wouldn't say it would be better, but it will definitely be more informed. So,
Mhm.
you'll have real time data, you'll have data that's being captured, there will be a single source of truth, and all of those things. So, performance management system itself can be more informed for sure. However, uh, from an evolution standpoint, I think the challenges that were there in the traditional performance management system will not disappear overnight. They will
Mhm.
still need to be managed because there's a lot of context behind somebody's performance. We can argue ratings is a good thing, is a bad thing. I personally don't think it's bad at all in the sense that, it sort of puts a number to the whole thing. It puts a reference to the whole thing. So
Mhm.
it's not the ratings which is a problem. I think it's how we are getting there and what are we doing about it.
Right.
That is something that remains to be seen.
Right. You spoke about ratings, and when we talk about these recognition programs, they're everywhere today, from reward points to ratings to gamification of these performance management systems and also appreciation platforms. Yet we see that employee engagement on a larger basis, it remains significantly low in India Inc. And it fluctuates as well. Now, have organization confused that recognition with meaningful performance conversations? And how do you keep a balance of that at the Trident Group?
I think, see, recognition is a good thing. Everybody needs it. Appreciation is a good thing. Everybody needs it. I think what truly matters is A, what are you recognizing folks for? Is it something which is, again, I'm a big believer of here and now, or is it something that is just sort of, looking back and saying, तुमने ये अच्छा किया था. And this is, when you did this, it was really, really good. What's gone is gone. What's been done is done. If in the moment the timeliness of the recognition doesn't come, it doesn't come in a timely manner, then it loses its meaning. So recognition is not bad, but relying completely on recognition as something that will drive performance might be a little overambitious. So even at Trident, for example, our recognition happens, like any other organization, it happens all the time, which means, you have certain events that are meant for it. You have on the spot recognition, you have things like that, which are constantly going on, which is very important to keep the momentum going. However,
Hmm.
performance management by nature or performance enablement by nature needs to be forward looking, which recognition is not. Recognition looks at the past and says, this is, you did a good job. Performance management by definition needs to look that, okay, you did a good job. How can we do better? So
Hmm.
those conversations, performance management needs to extend to be more forward looking. I know it sounds a lot like Gyan, that who does it, but
Yeah.
that is exactly why we struggle with performance management these days. So at Trident, we try and do this every month. We try and at least look at the performance, and we start looking at how people have done, where are they struggling. And there have been times when we have been course corrected, which means that sometimes you realize that we probably haven't given them enough clarity of what they need to do. And there
Hmm.
are other times when, when you constantly are asking people, okay, last month this was supposed to be done, it didn't happen. There were some constraints. What happened this month? What happened the next month? And gradually you feel that people start calling a spade a spade. They tell you, why is it happening? Why is it not happening? And then discussion becomes more fruitful on how do you want to improve it, not just passing judgments on each other and saying कि यार तुमने नहीं किया, तुमने clarity नहीं दी, तुमने ये. So that is not going to help anybody. So I think that is where it becomes very important to link the two and put them for the purpose that they are meant for: recognition for recognition and performance management for performance management.
Now, performance management, it heavily also relies on the managerial level, right? They are expected to coach, to train, to handhold the freshers, their teams, while also delivering their own business outcomes. Now, what issues do you think managerial levels in a true sense face, and how can we improve that?
That's a very good question, Savi, and something that we all need to be very empathetic towards. And when I say empathetic, it only means that historically and not just right now, typically the person who becomes the manager is somebody who has shown great productivity or great output or great performance as an individual contributor. So technically, the person seems very sound, seems very sorted, seems
Mm.
very committed, loyal, shows the right behaviors, and finally you say, let's sort of promote him and let him handle a team. What we probably miss out, and this is again, research talking, research tells us that as few as 4 out of 10 people who become managers have the actual talent to be managers. And one would think, why do you need managerial talent? Isn't it common sense? Well, I wish it were. Unfortunately, it's not, because you're dealing with human beings on the other side. You're
Yeah.
dealing with people with their own emotional baggage, own rational baggage, and all of those things. So, as a manager or a leader who needs to drive performance and, like you said, play the role of a coach, a mentor, a capability builder, a trainer, whatever you want to call it. So for us to be able to play that role very effectively, there is absolute merit in developing leadership capability, which sometimes is undermined by organizations. When you start looking at organizations, they will invest very deeply. Chalo AI ki training karate hain, and technical trainings and this and that, which is required. It's good, and it's, you need to constantly upskill your folks. But at various times, sometimes things like leadership capability become a softer aspect and tend to take a back seat, which fortunately I feel now is changing. And I think the reason for that is that now when you look at managers, unlike, let's say, 15, 20 years ago, when the definition of a manager would have been somebody who has already put in 10, 15 years, has experience behind them, and therefore has sort of, elevated to a certain level. Now you see young managers everywhere. You have Gen Zs managing Gen Zs, you have alphas, whatever it is. So you have all of these younger folks who don't obviously lack the intent, they don't lack the energy, but they do need input on how can they effectively manage a team. So
Mm.
leadership capability is now again coming back to the forefront. And at Trident, we are heavily committed, and we're absolutely certain that in order to build the future of the organization, to build the future Trident, so to speak, we need to shape leaders who shape leaders. So that is our first thing as part of my HR blueprint for the year is shape leaders who shape leaders. Because without that, it's going to fall apart. So I think
Yeah.
that's the kind of input we need to give to the managers of today.
Well, that's a lovely thought. On a very personal note, if I ask you about your journey, you know, what was most difficult for you as an HR leader to manage amongst the employees in the organization? Now, when you look back, what was the most challenging situation if you have a situation to pinpoint or just an initiative that you were trying to bring in the organization, where did you see the most resistance?
So, uh, I think when it comes to change management or when it comes to driving a certain strategy or driving anything in an organization, there are a lot of playbooks out there. You know, I was a consultant for a very long time, and then you work with the big four and you work with all the consultants, and bless their heart, they have tried to simplify stuff for you on how do you drive things. ये model use कर लो, ये 5S है, ये 2S है, ये है, वो है. So you have all of these things which definitely simplify the process and what do you need to do to be able to drive change in an organization. However, I think the big make or break is
Hmm.
going to be people. Is
Hmm.
always and always going to be people. You know, we talk about what's in it for me. We talk about change management as a process. We talk about all of these things which behaviorally make sense. However, when you actually, and I'm talking about, you know, when I was a consultant versus now that I'm leading something like that in an organization, there is a big difference. I mean, you can say all you want and all the gyan you want that this is good for you and this and that, and but people learn when they learn.
Hmm.
People want to do things that make sense to them. And
Correct.
therefore, the emotional part of any change management process, I think, should far, far exceed any rational, any steps, any changes, any system, any technology that you're trying to get. If you're spending X amount of time and money on that, you probably will need to spend 5X on the other thing simply because that is what is going to determine the success of the first one. So,
Right.
in our case as well, the challenge, which I'm pretty sure is the same for many, many organizations also, is that you have multi-generational workforce today. So, you know, you have right from generation X, Y, millennials, Z, alpha, you have the whole gamut, right? And that it's not just hearsay, it is actually true about the kind of upbringing that they've had and therefore the way they are conditioned and what is it that they need from the organization. So, even framing one change would be multiplying that into 5 times to try and see what works for one may not really work for another. However, in the interest of the organization, how do we frame it in a manner that it is exciting to all? Because ultimately, all of them have to, go with the change or lead the change. So I think that's been a big learning about people, their emotions, their what's in it for me, the politics, everything. And all of this is very real.
Absolutely, absolutely. You answered my question about the multi-generational workforce. I was about to ask you that. Well, employees today, they increasingly want personalized growth rather than a very standard career path. Now, should performance management evolve from evaluating people to helping also build their skills? And what do you think about career mobility and also organizational mobility across departments?
I think that's the reality of today, right? So when we
Mhm.
look at these things, um, they call them protean careers. They call them other words and other nomenclatures that have come in. But I think it's very very true because a lot of times when you start your career in a particular manner, um, organizations these days, and I can definitely vouch for Trident for sure.
Mhm.
It's we call it opportunities unlimited, which means that this entire organization, all departments, all businesses, all locations is a canvas waiting for you if you want to explore it. So the differentiator between people who take up such opportunities and people who don't is your own thing. There is nothing stopping you, and I think most organizations believe in that. So when you look at startups, they joke about everybody seems to be doing everything, and you have your background in one thing but you want to make your career in another. Forget about everything else. The tried and tested paths. I'm a finance person, I'm a marketing person, I'm an HR person. Now you
Mhm.
have 20 others which can be combined together. or which sort of sit on top of each other. You talk about behavioral economics, you talk about HR and psychology, you talk about so many things. Finance and digital is there in almost everything. So, you talk about digital HR. So, when you start combining these things, so it becomes very obvious that careers no longer can be moving at the same pace or cannot be unidirectional. And people who are willing to take that risk and understand that that's learning and that's the quickest way to sort of learn things and go from one to the other, I think they actually enjoy the process. So I think it's not something that one has to do. I think it's organically happening.
Right. Well, according to a lot of studies, Miss Luthra, joy and happiness is directly linked with the productivity of any employee at workplace, right? A happier employee is more productive. Well, I'd like to know if you beg to differ or you do agree with that. And at the Trident Group, what are you doing to keep an employee happy? What are some of the employee engagement programs that you have, some employee well-being programs that you have?
So, no, I think absolutely it's right. I think whether we call it happy, whether we call it engaged, whether we call it a holistic well-being sort of a thing, our philosophy, if I were to tell you, and what is the HR mantra, so to speak, is pehle khushi, phir khushali.
Hmm.
So that in itself sort of tells you what we feel, which means that you look at people first, you look at a person as a human being first, look at their well-being, their happiness, their engagement, prosperity will follow. So when you
Mhm.
talk about pehle khushi, phir khushali, we just concluded our annual engagement survey with Great Place to Work. We were certified as a Great Place to Work with an overwhelming 95% achievement on our trust index. So I think more than anything, that just gives you a lot of peace that whatever it is that you're doing, there is something which is working out. So all the tried and tested things that you've said, we are all about inclusion. Being a manufacturing organization, you have 80% blue collar, you have 20% white collar. I don't think I have any policy today
Hmm.
that is different for either. So we have all the policies which are consistent, which are inclusive, whether it's for women, whether it's for youngsters, etc. We do a lot of reward and recognition because we believe in that. We do
Hmm.
a lot of open houses. So when people talk about our open door policy or communication, etc., I don't know how many organizations have a system in which more than 20,000 employees are all on one platform. They actively participate in it. It's employee self-service, which means that, one would think that how would a blue collar person do it? And you'd be surprised. They're the ones that teach us so many times on how to use technology better and how to drive some of these things. We do a lot of work for CSR, which means that it's not just about the employees who are associated with us, but we're very cognizant of the communities around us. So when you have communities around us, we have women, etc. So we have sewing lessons, we give them a marketplace, we give them raw material to make things, stitch things, and then
Hmm.
they have a marketplace in which they can come and display their goods, and people buy them and things like that. So all of these things are something. So, and we have something called Asmita for women. So when you talk about Asmita for women, it's about understanding and realizing that women have a lot of uh, social obligations or
Hmm.
familial obligations. And when we have those obligations, it is only fair that women be given a level playing field to be able to meet those obligations without feeling they're compromising on the work that they have, right?
Hmm.
So it's very, very important for us to be able to do that. And that's the asmita, which is the confidence and things like that. So a lot of things, Savi, actually, that we do. We believe in grievance handling, which needs to be done quickly. You really can't postpone it. So it's very transparent and things like that. So lots of things that we try and lean on it to the Indian tradition, the Indian culture, and try and see how we take it from there and imbibe it in our culture today.
How amazing is that? Thank you for sharing all the initiatives, all the HR leaders, the HR professionals watching this video. I'm sure they're going to learn a lot of things from this and what Trident Group is doing. And on that note, I'll now want to move to the rapid fire round if you're ready.
Sure.
All right. Ratings or real-time feedback?
Um, Real-time feedback.
Recognition or compensation, which drives performance longer?
I don't want to say either or. I mean, I would say both combined in the right manner, simply because if you say no, recognition is very important, let's be practical. You know, people are not working just because of the engagement and things like that. So there is this thing. But I think assuming that a compensation increase or a growth or money is going to buy you engagement and buy you, a performance, that might be slightly ambitious to think about. So, so I would feel both.
Both. One performance management myth that HR still believes.
I think the myth which I want to talk about is that we have given everybody clarity on what is expected out of them, and now the ball's in their court. I sometimes feel that when we say clarity, or when managers talk about clarity, and you were to sit down with 10 managers and say that, okay, explain to me what you expect from this manager, from this team member, I have a suspicion that they may not be able to completely explain as to chahte kya ho, what do you
Right.
want the person to do. So I think one myth or one thing that we should focus on is providing radical clarity on what is expected of team members from work.
Absolutely. Well, one habit every great manager should practice every week.
Continuous conversations. So, and conversations need not always be about performance and things like that. And I'm not even saying a conversation like how was your weekend is a real conversation. That in any case you would have. But I think there are things such as quick check-ins. There are things which are more developmental. There are things which are performance coaching. But there is a mix. And I think all managers should intentionally block time, take time out, because like I tell a lot of my leaders and managers, if they say hum pura time yahi karte rehte hain, well, that's your job.
Right.
That is your job. You are working for a team that is working for the organization.
AI will improve in performance management. Agree or disagree?
It will improve. It will improve data for sure. Maybe data consistency it would improve, but performance management is more than data. It is one of those areas in HR specifically that has a lot of tacit knowledge built in. When I say tacit knowledge, it means if you've done well, there was a context to it. If you've struggled, there is a context to it. And relegating everything to just data alone, while makes things objective and make things consistent and makes things real time, you sometimes may miss out on the very important aspect of a person's reality where we can struggle. So I think that is very, very important.
Agree. Well, one quality you always look for in high performers.
Their willingness and their willingness to say yes to it, which means not agreeing. I'm not talking about agreeing. I'm talking about anything that comes your way, there is a solution orientation. I'll figure out how. So when people become solution oriented, because what I've realized is, and I think I heard some talk from by Barack Obama as well, when he was talking about it, he said for youngsters, there are enough and more people who are around to tell you what the problem is. And this is not right, that's not right, that's not right. And what we look for are people who can say, leave it to me, let me handle it for you. So that's the approach.
Well, continuous feedback in one word.
Continuous feedback in one word is important. It's a non-negotiable.
Well, complete this sentence. The future of performance management belongs to organizations that
move with the needs of their members. So when the need of the member is here and now, then you move along with it. So I would feel agile organizations, like everything else, you move with agility, because the minute you spend time thinking about retrospective, you've already lost that time. The rate at which things are changing, retrospective is no longer an option. So I think it belongs to organizations who move in the prospective, not the retrospective.
Oh, what a lovely way to end this rapid fire. Well, any last piece of advice for all the young professionals watching this video?
Uh, well, if you're in HR, I think I've said a lot of things that again, coming, are we living all of them? The answer to that is no. Are we conscious of where we are falling? The answer to that is definitely yes. So I think the minute we can unlearn some of the things that we have learned in the past, and be agile about moving along with some of the other things, and changing our approach, I think that's where the merit of HR lies. That's one. And second, I think I always say this because there's always so many questions about AI and things like that. AI, especially in HR, there is going to be real time data, dashboards, predictive analytics, and all of that is wonderful. But like I said, that there is nothing that can replace tacit knowledge. So it's very important to keep that at the back of your mind, that data with humanity is going to define the effectiveness of HR practices and policies going forward.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful and candid conversation, Ms. Luthra. I hope to stay connected with you for more such interactions. I'm sure the viewers are going to love watching this video. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Avi. Thank you so much for your time.